Shields up, Ironbreakers. We're kind of here coming at you with another video, and today we're going to be talking about Anthem Loot. So on the day one patch, the developers unintentionally boosted the drop rates of masterwork items and legendary items. This was something that they didn't realize at the time, and they only identified the problem about 11 hours later. As you guys can see in this Reddit post by Ben Irving, they said, hey, update on what happened here. In our Friday changes, one of the edits we made had the side effect of increasing certain drop chances. This was not intended. Once we identified the problem, we changed it back to how it was before. That was about 11 hours later. Took a little time for that message to make it around internally and to make sure we understood what happened and how to avoid it going forward. It's never our intent to make changes without being transparent, so we wanted to come here to respond and clarify. Note, we did intentionally change the drop rates of rare items in certain chests per the patch notes we posted. Okay, so there's two different situations here. The whole chests thing that he puts at the end, I'll explain that, but first let's talk about this unintended change. What was happening was a lot of players were going into Grandmaster 1, potentially 2 and 3 even, and they were just getting completely and utterly showered in masterwork items. I was actually playing during this time because this was immediately after the patch had dropped, and I was playing during that day one patch to identify what has been fixed. Does the game feel better? Does the game feel worse? To kind of talk about it in my review. And I did notice that masterworks were pretty much coming fast and loose. I was playing with a couple of the Ironbreakers at the time, and we were just like, man, this is just like, it's raining masterworks. What's going on? Is this how the end game is supposed to be? Because interestingly enough, right around the time that that patch came out was also the time that some of us got to level 30. So we just assumed, oh, this is what it's supposed to be like. It's kind of weird because we're going to get geared out really, really fast. So yeah, there were like massive drops in those items, and I guess that wasn't intended because they changed it back to how it was, and now those drops are once again more rare. So what's this chest situation that he's talking about? Well, what happened was a lot of players were using something that could almost be considered an exploit, but basically they were going into Grandmaster 3 difficulty, and they were going through free play and finding these chests that are out in the world. These are chests that you do not have to engage in combat to actually have access to, and they were just getting like legendary and masterwork drops out of those chests. And naturally, this is not intended because you're basically getting a ton of loot for putting in like no work whatsoever. So the developers decided to nerf that down, and those chests can still drop masterworks and legendaries, but at a much lower rate so that you can't just like run around the Grandmaster 3 and just farm chests all day long like it's no big deal, right? So that change, I think everybody can understand, you know, the whole chest thing. But the nerf got a lot of people upset, and understandably so, because they were, you know, they were trying to get all of their masterworks. And essentially there's also a problem with the loot itemization, in which a lot of times people were getting, inscriptions in their items that were just not relevant. So like, for instance, you would have an ability for a storm, which would use elemental damage, and then that ability would come in with an affix that would increase the physical damage of that piece of gear, essentially doing absolutely nothing. So those were bad rolls. So players assumed, okay, this outstanding drop rate is to compensate for the fact that there's a lot of really bad rolls on the items. And a lot of players were okay with it, but once they nerfed it back, you had the situation where you still had the bad rolls, but you didn't have the increased drop rate, so you were getting less drops, and you were still getting bad rolls, and players got really upset about that stuff. Like, I can understand, and as a matter of fact, today is probably when this is getting changed, so for the last couple of days, pretty much since the day one patch, you've been getting those bad rolls on masterwork items. Anyway, the solution proposed here by Ben Irving, he's going to go over all of the feedback that they've received. And here's what he had to say. Hey, all. First off, thank you all for the feedback around loot drops. This is what we have heard. Many inscriptions are not useful to the item they are attached to. Due to this, players need to get many masterworks of the same item to find a good one. Players want the frequency of masterwork drops to increase to help with the above, or they want us to change how masterwork inscriptions work so that they are more useful. Now, personally, I don't know how each of you guys feel about this, but I think that the rate at which masterwork items were dropping was a little bit too much, because it kind of diminishes the feeling that you get when you do get a masterwork item. And, you know, some people are going to have a different opinion on that. That's just how I feel about it. I feel like you getting a masterwork should be, you know, something really cool. Like, oh, man, I got this masterwork. I want to see what it is. So I would prefer to have the better rolls that instead of having the bad rolls and having constant shower of masterwork items, but that's just me. But anyways, their plan for the changes with this is inscriptions are now better for the items that they are on. This applies to new items earned in Anthem, not existing ones in your vault. See, I almost wish that there was like some kind of mechanic that you could go to like a vendor or something and say you had one of the old items and you're like, oh, I just want to re-roll the stats on this old item because who knows if you're going to get the same legendary twice. You know, I've only gotten 2 legendaries up in 2, 3? I think it was 2. I've only gotten like 2 legendaries up until now. And it's like, who knows if I'm going to be getting those legendaries again, because it's just a really rare thing that happens. But anyways, they go on to say, if an inscription applies to only the item it is on, the gear icon, because there's 2 icons that you get in the inscriptions. One of them looks like a gear icon. That means that that inscription only applies to that specific item. The other one is a little man icon, and that pretty much indicates that it is for your whole javelin. So basically, say if you have a machine gun that also has elemental damage, but it has the little figure, that means that that is going to apply to your whole gear. But anyways, they say that if the inscription applies to the item it is on, gear icon, it will be useful to that item. Otherwise, the inscription will provide a javelin-wide benefit. For example, an assault rifle will not have an item-specific plus pistol damage inscription. It may have a plus electro damage suit-wide inscription, which is cool for a lightning build. Removed uncommon and common greed items from level 30 drop tables. Thank God for that, dude. Like, it was getting insane. Like, that was actually something that really bothered me, particularly last night we were pushing GM2, and I'm just like, really? A white in GM2? A white drop? Like, white are common items, they're pretty useless. They're saying that this was a highly requested change, and we agree, so that's that. Well, good. Thank you. Get rid of whites and greens. I would almost argue get rid of blues, too. Just once you get to, well, I mean, get rid of blues in GM1. Like, you can still have it on level 30 loot tables, but, you know, once you get the Grandmaster difficulty, just get rid of blues altogether. Nobody needs blues if you're doing Grandmaster. Like, nobody's in there, oh man, I hope I get this blue drop in this Grandmaster. It's not happening. We have reduced the crafting materials needed to craft a masterwork item from 25 masterwork embers to 15 masterwork embers. Not sure how meaningful that is. I have not engaged with the crafting system all that much when it comes to masterwork, to be completely honest. As you salvage or harvest, you should be able to craft more masterwork items to get the inscriptions you are looking for. Now that inscriptions are more relevant to their item, this should yield better results for players. So basically what they're saying here, like if you wanted the too long to read, is you're gonna get better rolls at the same drop rates you're getting right now. Anyway, he then goes on to say additional inscription changes details. It's hard to write the short version of this, but I'm going to try. If we need more information later, we can do that. There are a large pool of inscription options available to roll on items. The inscription pools are generic. Example, weapons. So basically what this means is every weapon, whether it's a grenade launcher or a machine pistol, is drawing from the same pool. Every masterwork item has 4 inscriptions: major primary, major secondary, and minor secondary. So basically all of these inscriptions, regardless of their category, are going to be drawing from the same large pool of inscription options, which is going to be common across all weapons. This is how it was implemented in the game right now. And I say right now, but as I'm recording this video, that is going to be the day in which they're going to change it. So let's just say it is how it was previously before the update that they're doing. So what this means is you could have that grenade launcher that you got have inscriptions that would better suit a machine pistol. For instance, the way that they're changing it is going to be each item type now has a specific set of inscription options for each of their inscription pools. The pools are smaller and are targeted to the specific item type. Example, there used to be a weapon pool, now there is an assault rifle pool, and the assault rifle pool has 4 pools for each of the inscription types listed above. And I know that this might sound a little bit confusing to some of you, but let's just put it like this. Instead of you having that big pool of inscriptions, which was common to all of the weapons, you have 4 different pools per weapon depending on the type of inscription that it is. The example that they give you here is, for instance, for the assault rifle pool, you have a specific pool for its major primary inscription, you have another pool for its minor primary inscription, again another pool for its major secondary inscription, and another pool for its minor secondary inscription. What this means is the rolls are going to be much more targeted towards that specific item, and therefore it should be easier for you to get good rolls on masterwork items, therefore removing the necessity for you getting showered in like 30 masterwork items with bad rolls. Because, you know, this way, I still think that the potential for you getting a good item is better than if you had like the thing where it's, hey, we're just showering you with masterworks, but they all suck, you know? And I think that is actually a more rewarding system, but I won't know whether or not that is the case until I actually experience the loot as it becomes changed in the upcoming patch. Anyway, the primary inscriptions, so the major primary and minor primary, are going to be focused on damage or survivability. Any item-specific inscriptions gear icon will always benefit the item they're on. And then javelin-wide inscription suit icon will benefit damage or survivability across the whole javelin. So it's going to be your primary inscriptions all about damage and staying alive, and the secondary inscriptions are going to be utility. They're going to focus on utility and can be targeted to the item, gear icon, or the entire javelin. There are likely a bunch of questions. We'll read through the comments, and if we need additional posts to clarify things, we can work on that. I think this is pretty clear. All that is left is for us to now actually test the implementation of this and see whether or not it feels good to get those drops, if those drops are in fact much better, if all of the inscriptions are valid, because I gotta be honest, I'm 99% sure that you're still going to run into some situations where you are getting bad rolls. And I think what's going to happen at that point is we're going to have to report those so that they continue to refine the inscriptions. Because, I mean, you're talking about all of the different weapon types. Each of these weapon types is going to get 4 inscription pools. There's no denying that, you know, there's going to be some mess up along the way. Like, I'm sorry, guys. You guys have made a lot of mistakes along the way. Let's not try to hide that. So it is going to be not just a developer effort, but also, I think, a community effort for the people that are interested in pursuing Anthem's endgame. But anyway, what do you guys think about all of this? Let me know in the comment section down below. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button. And if you want to stay up to date with my future content, hit subscribe button and the bell notification icon. I'll see you guys in the next one.